Now, I know a lot of you have wanted to start a long form content series, but are maybe unsure whether or not that should be a podcast, video series, or written blog. Now, I say written blog because you can have a blog that features your videos, podcast, and or written content, and there definitely are benefits to hosting that content on a blog, but that is a topic for another day. For the sake of this episode, when I say blog, I'm referring to a good old-fashioned written blog. Now, you likely already know the benefits of creating long-form content, like a podcast, video series, or blog. There's only so much inspiring, educating, and entertaining you can do in a social media caption, right? So a long-form content series is a great way to engage your audience with a tremendous amount of value and take your brand to the next level. If you're a coach, consultant, thought leader, or freelancer, it's an especially great way to demonstrate your expertise. For example, if you're a fitness coach, you could create a series about detoxing, losing weight, or whatever your niche is. Or is it niche? I don't know. I get very anxious every single time I have to say that word. Anyway, when you're first starting, I feel very strongly about just picking one format. Now, I know it's tempting to want to do all the things. So if you're thinking, why can't I just record a podcast, film it and make videos, and then transcribe the content and publish it to my blog? The short answer is you absolutely can do that. And if you feel like you have the bandwidth to do it, great. But the reality is most of you won't, or if you started, you would very quickly get burnt out and miss out on the very most important part about making content, and that is consistency. Consistency is queen. So if you've been meaning to start a podcast, video series, or blog for a while and you've put it off, or maybe you've stopped and restarted and stopped again, I want you to make it easier on yourself and just pick one format. And if you're unsure what format that should be, I'm going to help you decide in today's episode of the Empowerista podcast.
Welcome to Empowerista, a show dedicated to helping you show up and be seen as an entrepreneur. I'm your host, Alex Worley, the CEO of Empowerista, an award-winning producer and national TV host, seen on platforms like Entrepreneur.com, Amazon Prime, and Business Rockstars. These are the tips and truths to amplify your influence and income.
Today's episode is brought to you by my ebook, Confidently on Camera, How to Create Your First Video Series. Maybe you've been wanting to create video content but feel stuck on the details, like what format should I do? What equipment should I use? What should I say? Or maybe you're feeling self-conscious about how you look and sound. All of these hesitations are totally normal, and I wrote this book with you in mind. Let's clear up all your presentation and production questions so you can show up confidently on camera. Pre-order the book today at a discount for $24.99 over at confidentlyoncamera.com. So you're trying to decide whether to start a podcast, video series, or blog. Well, I've started all three, so I'm excited to help you weigh the pros versus cons and decide what's right for your brand. The number one most important consideration is what content format does your community consume? If you're a social media influencer or want to be one, and your community exclusively hangs out on social media, it may be difficult to get them to hop on over to a podcast or a blog platform. So creating videos you can publish right there on social media may be your best option. On the flip side, there's a large segment of the population, myself included, that would much rather listen to podcast episodes than watch social media videos. The key is to know your audience. And if you don't, start with asking 3 to 5 people who represent your audience what type of content they prefer to consume. This answer alone may clear up your question on which format to choose. The second consideration is style. Have you already chosen a content style, like interviews, how-tos, or documentary, for example? If the answer is yes, there are certain content platforms that lend themselves to certain content styles. Let's start with interviews. A lot of people like to feature a guest by interviewing them because it's a great way to network, get exposure to their audience, especially if their audience aligns with yours, and it takes the pressure off of you as a content creator because it's actually the interviewee who does the heavy lifting. Podcasts are by far the best platform for interviews because they're long, yet not very visually engaging. I mean, it's really just two talking heads, right? So podcasts have a much higher retention because people can listen while they multitask. Moving on to documentary, and I'm not talking about Tiger King or an hour-long documentary you'd find on Netflix. I'm talking about documenting your or your customer's journey in like 1 to 3 minutes. For this format, I'd highly recommend video, or a vlog, as many people would call it. Another option is you could document your customer's journey with a case study video that basically highlights before, during, and after a transformation that happened from working with you. Lastly, how-tos are a great way to demonstrate your expertise by teaching your audience how to do something they'd like to learn and you'd like to teach. This one would definitely be a tie between video and podcast, and it really comes down to length. If you're looking to give fast tips in a few minutes or less, I'd recommend video. But anything more than 5 minutes, I'd recommend podcasting. One exception to this rule would be live video, where people do tend to watch a little bit longer. Now, you'll notice written blogging didn't win for any of these styles because people prefer consuming content in video and audio formats versus reading, hands down. That doesn't mean there aren't other advantages to written blogging though, so stay with me. The third consideration is cost. Let me preface this with each of these content series can be done for absolutely free. Free 99. All you need is a smartphone or laptop, which I know most of you have. With that said, if you have the budget to take your work up a notch, I recommend you do. For a podcast, I definitely recommend investing in a mic. Sound is really important. I use a Zoom H5 handy recorder and it works really great, or I'll let you be the judge of that. I think it works great, but it is a little pricey for a starter mic. It's about $250, whereas you definitely can get more affordable mics when you're starting out, like the Blue Snowball mic I hear about a lot, and it's only about $50. And for a video series, I'd recommend starting with your smartphone video camera and then investing in a tripod stand, Diva Light, mic, and perhaps an editing software like Adobe Premiere. At least that's what my setup is. Now, I share specific equipment recommendations for various production levels and budgets in my new book, Confidently on Camera, How to Create Your First Video Series. Shameless plug. Just head to confidentlyoncamera.com to pre-order today. But bottom line, even though video equipment can be affordable, there's still more of it. So it definitely is a little bit more of an investment to do video. The cheapest content format is by far written blogging. You can create a blog website basically for free, or you could hire a very affordable designer on a site like Fiverr or Upwork, which may be worth it because the aesthetic of the blog is very important to readers. The fourth consideration is time. Now, written blogging in most cases is the least time intensive since there isn't much pre and post production work. It's simply writing the blog post. Whereas video and podcasting takes a little bit more time, and I'm going to give them a tie for how much time that they take, because podcasting pre-production work tends to take a little bit longer. You're either booking guests or you're writing a solo show with a script that's going to be much longer than a video would be. And video, the post-production work tends to be longer, especially if you're editing the video. So if you're taking your work to the next level, you're going to want to edit and post, and that can take more time. With that said, live videos or smartphone videos captured in one take are not only cost-effective, they're also huge time savers. For both podcasting and video, you can also consider saving yourself time by outsourcing to an editor. Again, I recommend Fiverr or Upwork. Bottom line, any of these formats, there's both a cost and time effective way to do it. It just depends how you want to do it. Moving on, the fifth consideration is repurposing opportunities. Basically, how many shorter posts can you get out of the one long post? Or in other words, how much bang for your buck can you get? And the winner is definitely video. You can take the same video and post it on multiple platforms. You can even create smaller video snippets out of a longer video. You could pull still images from your footage. The next best repurposing opportunity would go to podcasting, as you can pull sound bites for social media. But in my experience, these don't perform too well on social media. Social media is definitely more of a visual platform, so videos and still images are going to perform better than an audio soundbite. Last place, we have blogging. There certainly are ways to repurpose blogging content, like pulling a quote and turning it into a graphic, hopping in your stories and talking about a few of the main points and then redirecting to your blog. But you can actually do these same tactics to promote your videos and your podcast as well. The sixth and final consideration is relationship building. Basically, which format is going to engage and grow your audience the most and create raving fans that keep coming back week after week. And if you're an entrepreneur, create listeners, viewers, readers that are going to turn into customers and clients. Now, this is a tough one because both video and podcasting have their own unique advantages. Video is great because you're engaging with your audience both visually and audibly. But podcasting is great because you have the gift of time. You're going to be speaking in their earbuds for a longer length than they would be watching you via video. So I'm going to give the two a tie. And you guessed it, written blogging is by far the worst when it comes to relationship building. I mean, we're really comparing a short FaceTime call to a long phone call to an old-fashioned letter when we're comparing these three examples. The old-fashioned letter is never going to win when it comes to relationship building. At the end of the day, what's going to build a relationship is you. So we need to see and or hear you. I can't emphasize that enough. I love that about video, that we can both see and hear you, but I love that in podcasting we have the gift of time. And so it's a great way to add a tremendous amount of value to your audience. But as you can see, there are pros and cons to all three formats. So ultimately, you have to be the one to decide what's best for your brand. So what do you think? Now that you have all these considerations, which format do you feel like is the right one for you? I'd love if you'd find me on Instagram at Alex Worley and send me a direct message to let me know. And if you chose video, you'll find everything you need to know about getting started in my new book, Confidently on Camera, How to Create Your First Video Series. Pre-order it today at a discount. ConfidentlyOnCamera.com is where you can find it.
Well, that's it for today's show. If you're loving this podcast, don't forget to subscribe so we can meet again next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much for listening and have an amazing week.